pass about 80%, and Clinton will veto most of that. And I do think, on balance, it's going to be negative for him. He's going to have problems in 90. They're making a record on 96, and they'll go to the voters and say, look, do you want to cut welfare, or do you want to keep it?
What you're saying reductively is that Bill Clinton is going to govern from the left.
No.
That's what you're saying.
He has been governing for the left.
Well, not only that, but now he's numerically obliged to do so because the majority of his constituency in the U.S. Congress, the Senate, and the House is left.
He's going to move to the middle and see what he can get. But if
that's what he should do.
If they take the country that so far to the right, this was not a mandate for the far right.
Why doesn't
they could overreach it the same way the Clintons did.
Why don't you pull a Jerry Brown and take term limits and say, the people have spoken, I'm for it, go ahead and do it, Newt. Send it out to the states.
Why doesn't he flood Capitol Hill with legislation of his own?
Well, he can do that if he wants to try to play a left-wing Harry Truman.
I'll say that 80% of the contract, I think, will be enacted, will pass through the Congress to reach his desk. Issue 3, winners and losers. Who are the big winners and the big losers of the '94 elections, besides the obvious ones, that is? The losers first. Pat Buchanan.
I think Joycelyn Elders better get a bus ticket back to Arkansas, John. That's one. And the second one is Janet Reno. I think she's in real trouble, and you could get congressional hearings on what happened at Waco.
Eleanor.
Bad news.
Well, if 2 years ago was the year of the woman, this was the year of the conservative white male, which is why Pat just picked 2 women as his big losers. I've got John Dingell, who is now going to come back as a minority member of the minority, and losing his, absolutely, losing his barony of many years. And David Gergen's timing wasn't too great either. He resigned the night of the election, took a few shots at the Republicans on his way out the door.
Well, he took a few shots at the Democrats, too. What do you think, Jack?
Well, two. One, obviously, is Rudy Giuliani. Who,
is he dead meat?
He's not dead meat, but he's breathing hard. And the other losers, it seems to me, are all the Republican presidential candidates in waiting who have ties to the previous 2 administrations, meaning Mr. Baker, Mr. Cheney, perhaps Mr. Kemp, Mr. Quayle, and Mr. Buchanan. They're the past now. They're relics.
Whoa. George Stephanopoulos, he's provided about the worst presidential advice since the guy that said, let's burglarize the Watergate. If he had a sense of honor, he'd resign.
Winners, Pat Buchanan.
Surprise winner, I think, is the Right to Life movement. Peg Luksic got 13% in Pennsylvania running for governor. It's a signal to the GOP that they cannot walk away from Right to Life.
Eleanor.
Al D'Amato, who will now take over the reins of the Senate campaign committee to consolidate these gains, and the team that brought George Pataki back in New York. And I'd also put Tom Foley in the winner category. He lost. He doesn't come back to have to face the awkwardness of being submissive to Newt Gingrich.
Well, there's a twist. Foley's a winner. What do you know, Jack? What do you say?
Well, Foley's a winner. Like the Cubs.
Better Spokane than Washington.
I think a really big winner is a couple of these guys who won governor's races that looked like they were down bad. George Pataki in particular, and George Bush.
Yeah, George Bush in Texas, of course. Yeah,
former right-wing former college professors. They include Newt Gingrich, Dick Armey, Phil Graham, and Bill Kristol, who from a fax machine has made himself a power in national politics to be denounced by the President of the United States.
Okay, here's the big list, the complete list. The big winners: Phil Graham, Al D'Amato, Haley Barbour, Pete Wilson, William Weld, John Engler, the National Rifle Association, the Term Limits Movement, the Christian Coalition, the Kennedys, all 3 of them, Ross Perot, the military, Turkey, Israel, China. The big losers: Tony Coelho, Stanley Greenberg, James Carville, Tom Foley, Rudy Giuliani, Jack Kemp, the Mexican government, organized labor, Ross Perot, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, Eleanor Clift, Marion Barry. Also other big losers: the tired, the poor, the huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the homeless, the tempest-tossed, the wretched refuse of teeming shores. Horse prediction. 2 years from now, in 1996, after the elections of 1996, will the Republicans still have control of both chambers of the United States Congress? Patrick Buchanan.
I think the answer to that is yes, John, because I think Bill Clinton will still be perceived as the incumbent. He will be unpopular. I don't see him gaining seats as he's running at the top of his ticket. I'd say yes.
You see a primary challenge against Clinton in '96, Pat?
Yeah, I do. Every Democrat has had one. I think he will, too.
Sam Nunn?
I would say more like Bob Kerrey.
Jesse Jackson?
Maybe Jesse in the general.
Eleanor, will the Republicans still have control of both chambers of Congress after the elections of '96, Eleanor?
I'd rather answer that question in about 8 or 9 months. I'd like to see what they do with their mandate. They've got to prove
Eleanor,
they can govern.
We cannot award you an extension. Now, what is your answer, Eleanor?
Based on history, it is unlikely that both houses would be overturned in 2 years. So, John, you got a yes.
Jack?
I think they'll probably hold it, but it depends a great deal on who they nominate for president. It depends on whether Ross Perot runs again and takes those votes away from Republicans. Depends on all, and whether Clinton manages to refurbish or reestablish some kind of image as a forceful leader. That's going to have a lot to do with it. My guess right now is that Clinton will get waxed in '96, but you can't tell.
Hey, the 6-year itch sets in the year 2000. Don't you see the Republicans...
98.
Huh? Excuse me, 98.
I don't think there's going to be a 6-year itch, John. I think this is like a century ago, just as the Republican big gains in 1894 were consolidated by the victory of William McKinley and holding both houses in 1896.
John?
So it will be in this century.
John,
I
if
see...
Clinton wins in '96, '98, the party will look like Nagasaki.
Okay. The seismic shift in favor of the Republicans should have come as no surprise to the viewers of this program. Watch this incredible early warning signal 100 days before this week's cataclysm. The odds now that the Republicans will take over the House, not only the Senate, but the House, have gone up from about 10 to at least 50% even money. Next week, President Clinton in Asia, talking Pacific Rim trade. Bye-bye.
The McLaughlin Group,